I am very confident in saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are still the best team in the NFL. I am. I don't think there is a doubt. I know we just lost to the Niners. I know it's an unpopular thing to say. The Eagles are number one still in the NFL. And we're going to talk about it today. Trending in the AM, taking your thoughts and opinions on this and any topic you want to talk about. We're live on Philadelphia Sports Network with your thoughts in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live. You know the drill. Hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe button, that follow button. It is free to do it. You hit those buttons and you help this show greatly. I am your host, Phil Stiefel, here every single morning. You can find me on all social media platforms at Beard and Knowledge. Greatly appreciate a follow there as well. And, we're live and we got lots to talk about. Yesterday on this show, we spent a lot of time talking about the Eagles defense because of the signing of Shaq Leonard. We didn't really get much into the Eagles offense, and I definitely want to dive into it because there's a lot of people clamoring for Rashad Penny. A lot of people on social media talking about Rashad Penny. So we're going to get into the Rashad Penny conversation. We're going to get into the Brian Johnson conversation, the Zach Ertz conversation, all the things that could be wrong with the offense because we spent a lot of time on the defense yesterday. We also got to talk about David Carr and his clown comments from yesterday. Clamoring for sure. There have been a lot of people. I have a whole thread of people telling me I'm wrong about Rashad Penny, K1. So there are. What's up, Bobby? How you doing this morning? Great to see you in the conversation today. And to my man Ted, who jumped in before the show even started, so I can't even respond to him. If I'm going to be a Homer fanboy, I got to unsubscribe. I need reality, upfront, Philly, raised differently, nothing personal. Dude, if you don't like the title of the show, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. You could just give the show a listen. You've never listened to the show before that I'm aware of. So, you can give the show a listen and listen to my explanation. And if you knew the show, you would know your reasonings why I'm wrong would be listened to on this show. But, we'll call that out. Who are these clamorers? There's a lot of them. Good morning, CJ. How you doing this morning? All right, so the title of today's show, the Eagles are still the best team in the NFL. Why did I title this show this way? And normally we save power rankings for later into the show. But I kind of got to get into the NFL Power Rankings Week 14 edition almost right away, or at least who number one on my list is, because that's where the title of the show came from. Because if you ask anybody out there, and trust me, I put my power rankings on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, people aren't too fond of the fact that I left the Philadelphia Eagles number one in my power rankings this week, even though they just lost to the San Francisco 49ers. And I feel very strong reasons. The title of the show that Ted is so upset with that he's going to unsubscribe to a network. I have firm beliefs in this. I have my reasoning. It's not just a fanboy point. I still think that this Eagles team, while not perfect, is clearly the best team in the NFL. Yes, we lost to the 49ers. I know. Everyone's going to tell me how great the 49ers are. But I looked at both teams' schedules. And very little has to be said about the Eagles' schedule. Everybody knows that the teams, the juggernaut of teams, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and so on. Everybody knows the Eagles' schedule and the amount of wins that they've got through that juggernaut of the schedule. The Bills. Yet you look at San Francisco's schedule, they've got 3 losses compared to our 2. Yes, they beat us. But who have they played that has proved that they're outside of beating us, the Eagles? Who else have they beaten that is to the level of competition that we have? I'll tell you. San Francisco, who I do have San Francisco number 2. Yes, they smoked the Cowboys. We also beat the Cowboys. They beat the Seahawks in a very close game, and they got the Seahawks again this week. And they beat the Jaguars. They're the 3 hardest games. Yeah, they beat the Steelers before the Steelers figured it out. They beat the Giants, big whoop. They beat the Cardinals, big whoop. Like, they lost to the Browns and Vikings and the Bengals before the Bengals. Like, who did they beat? Good afternoon, Zach. How you doing this morning? Um, why not make them 2, 3, and 4, Phil? As much as I respect you, I just can't agree based off of the ass kicking we got. Maybe I'm punch drunk. Right. And look, and I get it. I saw what you saw on the field on Sunday. I saw the Eagles get manhandled. I did. But I look at the totality of the picture of the season at this point. And the totality is that we've had a 10 times harder schedule than the 49ers, and we have won more games than they have. There's no buy-in play here. We both have played the same amount of games. We're 10-2, they're 9-3. We've faced a 10 times harder schedule than they have. So, in my opinion, being 10-2, just as a random way of describing it, the Eagles' schedule is a 10 on the toughness scale of 1 to 10. The 49ers' schedule is a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 on toughness, and they're 9-3. They've lost games that they should have won if they are as good as people are making them to be. Yes, you know what? All those losses, whatever, they did beat us. I get that. And they beat us pretty handily. I get that. But nothing they've done the rest of the year. Now, if they go out and beat Seattle, then go out and beat Baltimore, who I have in the top 5, my only AFC team in the top 5 this week. Yeah, sure. Maybe we can have this conversation. If the Eagles go out and lose to the Cowboys this week, maybe we can have this conversation. But right now, 13 weeks into the season, 12 games into the season, the Eagles have done far more good than the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, by the logic that the Eagles lost to the 49ers, that the 49ers should be ahead of them in the standings would mean that the Cardinals should be ahead of the Cowboys because the Cardinals beat the Cowboys. And it's a little bit of an extreme version of the conversation, but that's the point I'm trying to make. There's losing and there's getting boat raced. I get that, K1. We did get boat raced. We got curb stomp. We got manhandled. There's so many words and adjectives you can use there. Almost would feel like getting curb stomped the way we did almost kind of devalues the 49ers win a little bit because we kind of just packed it up, packed it in, let it begin. Maybe to an extent that, it just let it get out of hand. You know what I mean? Even though we kept our starters in far too often, which is something we haven't discussed much. Prior to the season, I had a splitting with Dallas. So did I. Beating the 49ers. So did I. So now we really need this game Sunday night. We can't let the division 1 seat slip away now. I agree. I had them at 10-2 at this point, Bobby. I had them losing to the Jets, which, yes, I did predict the Jets as the first loss. I had them losing to the Jets and losing to Buffalo. And then I had us beating all the other teams. I had us at 10-2 at this point in the season. Go back if anybody doubts me and find the week 1 before the season started when I finally made my one and only prediction. I had them losing to Buffalo, beating the 49ers, then losing to the Cowboys. I had us 4-2 in this juggernaut of a stretch. Now, yes, we probably need a win Sunday in Dallas. Is it the end of the world if we lose in Dallas? No, we still sort of control our own destiny because the Cowboys still have a tougher schedule. and the 49ers have, a couple tough games, whatever. But 14-3 should get you the 1 seed normally. And if we lose to Dallas, we could still be 14-3. But yes, we do need that 1 seed. This is pretty close to cope here, my bearded friend. I don't think it is. I don't. I think I'm being honest with myself looking at the schedule. Do I think that the 49ers here's another way to look at it. If the 49ers are so much better than the Eagles, if the Eagles and 49ers played that game 4 more times, so we played them a total of 5 times, just say, for argument's sake, we played them 4 more times. What would the end result be? I would think the Eagles would win 3 out of 5 total. If we played them 2 more times, I think we'd win 2 out of 3. It means the 49ers are a great team. It really does. It just means I still think that the schedule the Eagles have faced and the fact that they've been able to run through it almost unscathed makes them the better team. And I'm not sure why that's hard for people to understand. One loss and 1 win does not define a season or a team. You have to look at the totality of everything we have seen. We have beaten the Chiefs. We have beaten the Dolphins. We have beaten the Bills. We have beaten the Cowboys. Multiple of those teams are ranked in some people's polls higher than the Eagles. And I think it's laughable. So maybe there's me putting some respect where there's no respect being given. But I'm looking at the entirety of everything, making a lot of sense. Look, I appreciate that, Nick. And I'm okay if people disagree with me. I am open for conversation, unlike the person likes to sneak in before the show starts, so I can't actually respond to them and say they're unsubscribing because they don't like the title of my show. I'm okay having a discussion. And K1 knows that. Bobby knows that. Everybody in the comments knows I will have an open-minded conversation on this. I will. I'm giving you my reasons. Somebody needs to give me a reason outside of, no offense, K1, what did you use? Outside of us being boat raced by the Niners as your reason, you got to give me other reasons on why the 49ers should be ranked ahead of the Eagles. And maybe you can convince me. Top 5 rappers, Dylan. That KC win looks less and less impressive. K1, I won't disagree with this statement. I have that thought cross my mind that looks like that, and actually, the Bills one is one that I kind of thought even also about that, because these teams, like, what's Kansas City now, 8-4? Like, it's kind of shocking. But you know what? I guarantee you, at the end of the season, they might not be the 1 seed, but come the second and championship rounds of the AFC, KC is going to be right there. When the money's on the line, KC is still going to be there. So it's a fair statement now, but in 6 weeks, that might be an untrue statement. Good morning, Eric. How you doing? To the Superstars score 12. If the 49ers were better, they'd be 10-2. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes sense to me, K1. It does what Eric says. Bobby, after this stretch of games, we looked like a tired football team. Usually poor tackling is a sure sign of fatigue. Absolutely. And Bobby, why did we lose against the 49ers? Did we lose because the 49ers are this amazingly 10 times better team than the Eagles? No. And that's not taking anything away from what the 49ers did. We lost because our defense missed 3 billion tackles. Like, literally. I'm not even being sarcastic. We were missing tackles left and right, taking bad routes to the football, getting juked out of our shoes. It looked like a tired football team. A tired football team that played 3 games in 13 days around the holiday. It looked like a tired football team. And not just tired, like exhausted. And not only did they play all those games, they played an overtime game. Now, the team should have done things to kind of maybe try to win some of those games a little easier. But they won the games. So I'm not going to let one loss to the 49ers change my opinions on this team just because the 49ers beat us. I'm looking at the entire season. as a whole, and I still got the Eagles as the best team in football. That is my spiel. That is my reasoning why. 49ers have proven they need everyone healthy in order to win. Eagles have been winning despite, a lot of injuries. And I agree with that, Bobby. We have been. I mean, not only are we 10-2, not only are we 10-2 with a tough schedule, we're 10-2. And we've had cornerbacks go down. We've had guys go down for the season. Multiple linebackers go down. Defensive linemen miss games. Multiple offensive linemen miss games this year. We've had our tight end out for 4 weeks. Like, literally, the amount of injuries that we've battled this year, completely opposite of last year, obviously, but the amount of injuries, combine that with the schedule, combine that with the games and days, days and games played, combine it all, and we're 10-2. I'm not going to let one loss mean that everybody else is better. Kansas City win came in Kansas City, fair point, and the Bills win came versus the quarterback's best game of his career. So those wins were signature to me. It's the opposite way of looking at what we said earlier about the Chiefs game. I'm not trying to say they were meaningless. I don't think K1 was either, but we're trying to say maybe they weren't as good at teams as we had hoped before the season when we saw the schedule. But fair points from you. I'm not taking away. Like, you can only play the teams in front of you, and we've beaten the majority of the teams in front of us. On the other side of it, the 49ers have beaten the teams in front of them, except for 3 versus 2. But the games that they've had, the teams that they've had to face, it's not as tough. Now, I'll give them credit. They're winning. 9-3 is still one of the best records in football, and you can only play the schedule you're given. And they're doing a good job with it. And yes, they beat us, but I'm still going to value at least one more week who we've already beaten when I'm making this decision. We were inches away from losing to Dallas, but we didn't lose. And we got routed by the Niners. We also lost to the mediocre Jets. Although you can make a case for number one, you can make a case, Peanut, for a case not to be number one. And I want that. But see, here's the thing. Saying that we almost lost to Dallas. We almost lost to Buffalo. We almost lost here or there. But we didn't lose. We didn't. Because we executed better when the moment was the brightest. We got the job done. Some will say we didn't execute against Dallas, that Dak Prescott just stepped out of bounds. It's an argument to be made, I guess. But we didn't execute as well. We lost to the Jets, sure. Dallas lost to the Cardinals. I still got the Cowboys in my top 4. I'm not holding that Cardinals loss completely against them. I hold it against them enough to keep them below the Eagles. The 49ers, look at their losses. The Browns stink. I'm not buying the Browns. The Vikings are mediocre as well. The Bengals, they have not been as great as we expected this year. Those are bad. Those are losses. Those 3 losses outdo our 2 losses. I don't know. I think people are far too panicky. I think the Eagles fans that don't think the Eagles are good anymore are the best team in football. And this is no offense to you guys that are thinking, because some of you are bringing some great points to the conversation. But I don't think. Hold on, I just lost my whole train of thought there where I was even going with that. Like, whoa, whatever I was about to say, I saw something pop up my screen. I clicked it to close it, some pop-up, and now I just totally lost my train of thought. So we'll just go back to comments. I don't even know where I was going there. It's called genetics at my brother, and not us problem. I was going to say something about the fans, and I don't remember. Eagles are fine. The Niners beat a tired Eagles 42-19, an untired Dallas team 42-10, basically. Don't forget making Sam Howell look like Joe Montana. But we're not the only team. Come on, let's be honest. We are not the only team that made Sam Howell look well. Sam Howell's looked bad the last week or two. His bubble may have burst, or just maybe the Washington, whoever they are this week, Commanders. They've fallen off a little bit. Their bubbles burst a little bit. But by the time we made him look Sam Howell, he was leading the league in passing yards at that point. He was putting up 300-yard games every week. Washington fans, not just because of the game against the Eagles, but Washington fans were saying he was the future of the team for a few weeks there because of not just how he looked against the Eagles, but how he looked against everybody they were facing. and yet they still lost. Great teams find ways to win. I stand by that. People can't use the "we almost lost" argument as when it comes to other teams, the argument isn't valid, and that's very fair. I've seen plenty of people use the "almost lost" argument for other teams, but yet we're not allowed to use it, Zach. I'm not sure how that works. A win is a win is a win is a win, whether you win pretty or whether you win ugly. A win's a win. A win means you execute it one time better than the other team at a minimum. And that's what we did. Great teams find ways to win. That's what we do. Yeah, I mean, the Jets loss. It's a terrible loss, especially looking at the totality of the season and what's happened to the Jets season and what's happened with Zach Wilson and stuff. And God knows what's going on. They already cut Tim Boyle, who they benched Zach Wilson for. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Jets. But if I was a quarterback, I wouldn't want to be in there. Like, Robert Saleh won't get fired because of Aaron Rodgers getting hurt in the beginning of the season. But if I was the Jets GM, I'd have a serious conversation about Robert Saleh. He has butchered the situation with Zach Wilson and the quarterbacks and not moving on, then moving on too late, then rushing this and that. Like, the GM and the coach. I shouldn't even just say the GM. The owner should have a conversation about the GM and the coach on the way they've handled the backup quarterback situation this year behind Aaron Rodgers. But that Jets loss was a terrible loss. No doubt about it. And does beating the Chiefs and the Bills make up for it? A little bit, yeah. Does beating the Cowboys make up for it? A little bit. 100% of the team in the NFL lost to a mediocre team or two and lost a game versus someone else. So ain't no case against it. Phil's brain had an unscheduled. It was like a soft. I think there's something soft. I do that a couple times. Peanut. You know, I've lost a few brain cells over the years for a few things I've done. Sometimes I just draw a blank. Something distracts me. Like literally, it was just a pop up on my screen, and the computer pop up, and I just clicked exit on it, and that little thing just threw me for a complete and total reset there. Literally, I have no clue what I was going to say. Lost a big ugly game. My fault. Look, we lost a big ugly game this week. Yeah, everybody loves my short-term memory loss is a sign of sleep deprivation. Thanks, mister. Getting up at 6:30 a.m. every day is definitely a form of sleep deprivation. Um, I definitely have short-term memory loss. I definitely don't sleep long enough and well enough on a regular basis. No doubt about it. Everyone says this is a passing league, but I guess someone forgot to tell Shanahan that they didn't abandon their running game when we stopped. Eagles refused to commit, and that is something we've got to definitely get into. We'll get back to the power rankings. I'll actually show my full 10 plus 4 honorable mentions in a little bit. But obviously, the running game is an interesting topic right now, and one we've got to discuss. Also, key to happy life. Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe in getting 8 hours of sleep a day, guys. I do. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't work out that way. Eagles put everything on Hurts. A solid rushing attack would take some of the heat off of Hurts, but we want to be a pass happy offense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Shanahan didn't follow the crowd the Eagles decided to do. 49ers lost to Browns, Vikings, and a bad Bengals team, so they don't deserve to be considered the best. Exactly. And not only that, but they lost 3 games in a row. This Eagles team is never going to lose 3 games in a row with the way it is. Davon saying the coordinators are a big issue. Before we get to the offense, I do want to say I didn't listen to all of both coordinators spoke yesterday to the media, Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. And, I didn't listen to the whole interviews. I listened to clips of them, but I heard far too much. I got to do a better job and put my players into a better position to succeed type comments from Desai and Johnson yesterday. Like, I don't need to hear that. I need to hear more specific. I screwed up here, or I need to do a better job with this decision, or this or that. Like, far too generic comments from guys that tend to give much more detailed answers. And then Nick Sirianni took a lot of the blame for the offense, saying it's his offense. Brian Johnson's just doing what he says. I don't know. But absolutely, yeah. Coordinators are a big issue. Look. I don't know how much I want to blame totally the coordinator. Sean Desai had a bad game. He didn't adjust on Sunday. No doubt about it. The Eagles did not go back to the running game or didn't even try to utilize the running game. I get it. That's on Nick. I do truly believe that the offense that Brian Johnson calls is Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni gives him the playbook and says, this week, this is our system. These are the plays you can call. In these situations, I want one of these plays called. In these situations, I want one of these plays called. That is how I firmly believe the offense is run. So Brian Johnson, while he might call the play in, I kind of feel like Nick Sirianni may have too much say into the actual game. It kind of feels like a lot like early 2021 before Shane Steichen took over. Now, I love Nick Sirianni. I'm not criticizing Nick Sirianni. I love what he brings to the table. But maybe let's just give Brian Johnson a little bit more free reign so he can properly judge whether Brian Johnson is a good offensive coordinator or not. I agree, Eric. But our pass defense is too suspect to confidently pound our chest and claim number one spot. But again, nobody else has the total picture that the Eagles have put together, Peanut. Who else could claim and pound their chest and that they deserve the number one spot more than us? The 49ers are the only team that has an argument because they beat us. But they've got some bad losses on their schedule as well. More bad losses than we do. We have 2 losses. One was a bad loss to the Jets. The other was to the other team that's fighting for that one spot. That's it. They sounded so much like Andy Reid yesterday. I was like, oh, man. Where the hell? 2 days in a row. 2 days in a row. No TMC blowing up the chat. Gives me more time on everybody else's comments. Jets and Niners game where we barely ran the ball compared to how we passed. Now, Miriam, and thank you for tuning in and commenting. Yes, we barely ran the ball against the Niners, but I would have liked to see more of it early in the game. But eventually the game got out of hand. So we didn't run the ball as much as we should. But once you're down 2-3 scores, you're going to turn into a pass-happy team at some point. So the numbers are a little skewed last week because of the deficit we faced. Brian Johnson and Sean Desai follow orders. Doug Peterson left the Eagles because of lack in control. I think that's a fantastic point, Jonathan. I really do. I don't know how much control Howie Roseman has over the offense anymore, or the team anymore, or the schemes anymore. But that was definitely part of the rift between Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman, for sure. I'm restless and eager for abundance. Yeah. Steichen was a huge loss. Look at what he's doing in Indy with Minshew at quarterback. Absolutely. Shane Steichen proven to be a big loss this year. And again, that's not a knock on Brian Johnson. Shane Steichen wasn't perfect in 2021. It took towards late in 2021 and into the 2022 season for Shane Steichen to really, really grasp the role of offensive coordinator. And Brian Johnson, he's doing okay. At least he's got the team 10-2. Shane Steichen wasn't 10-2 his rookie years as offensive coordinator. So we gotta take that. The part of the offense that everybody's talking about is the run game, obviously. You know, you got some people complaining that Kenny Gainwell isn't touching the ball enough. You got some people complaining that Rashad Penny, how is he not dressing on Sunday? We need a power back, supposedly, and he's sitting there and not getting used. And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, Rashad Penny's not the answer. First and foremost, we barely run the ball as is. If you think Rashad Penny's the answer, whose touches is he going to take the 6 touches away from DeAndre Swift? Is he going to take the 2 touches away from Kenny Gainwell? So if we're not running the ball consistently enough anyway, Rashad Penny's not the answer. The games we do run the ball effectively, are you really going to stop everyone wants DeAndre Swift to touch the ball more, but they also want Rashad Penny out there. Are you going to take the ball out of A.J. Brown's hand? Are you going to take the ball out of Devontae Smith's hands? There's only so many touches in an NFL game. You get 65, 70 plays. You can only hand the ball off so many times to so many different running backs. Now, some say, well, then if Rashad Penny's not going to get used, why is he wasting a roster spot? Rashad Penny is here for one reason: an insurance policy if DeAndre Swift gets hurt. And that is it. Anybody saying, well, he's a power back, he's exactly what we need, they're idiots for not using him. Well, my counter to that is, before I say that, people also say, Well, how do they know what he's got left if they don't actually use him in a game? Well, I'm going to tell you why they don't use him in a game. Because they see him every day in practice. They know what he's got left and doesn't. And the little he might have left, they are saving if they need him in an emergency situation, in a pinch. Last three, I think, games of the year last year. Well, if he went down for the last 3 games of the year this year, that's where Rashad Penny will come in. Rashad Penny might be getting. We saw it in preseason. He didn't have that much juice in the 2 plays he ran. One was effective. One he ran into a wall. I don't think Rashad Penny getting touches and being active is going to solve the lack of running game, solve the lack of effective running the football. It's not going to solve the play calling. It's not going to solve getting the ball out quicker. It's not going to solve the pass protection issues. The people that are clamoring for Rashad Penny are the same people that were clamoring for Wash Jordan Howard for all those years. When Jordan Howard was obviously, we need a power back, use Jordan Howard more. He was washed. Like people don't understand that. And I think there's far too many wanting Rashad Penny out there without thinking open-minded about it. They see what he used to do and not what he's capable of doing. Eagles promoted Johnson to be Sirianni's play calling puppet. I mean, to an extent. I mean, he might not have 500 plays to choose from. He's probably got 2 or 3 plays to choose from in every single situation. And he gets told, hey, we're going to go for on 4th down, just so you know, so that adjusts your play calling. He's a puppet to an extent. I get it. You want to see complete games. To me, the issue goes back to the front, seeing us come this close to winning a championship versus experienced coaching, and they go in the opposite direction. I think that's a fair comment as well. I do. Sirianni was calling the plays early in 2021. He failed and turned it over Steichen. But he turned it over, but Steichen wasn't immediately effective. Like, he still had moments. It took till the next year for him to fully grasp it. We can run the ball on the Cowboys. They're softer than cotton candy. That's a possibility. Obviously, they're weak at linebacker. To see Shaq Leonard, I mean, obviously, we know Shaq Leonard signed, but Jerry Jones commented on the Shaq Leonard signing, and it was actually a very non-Jerry Jones statement. Said he wanted the best chance to win, and he feels the Eagles give him that. Like, that's a very respectful comment. Like, I don't expect that from Jerry Jones very often. Activate Penny for what? Eagles don't run the ball. But even when they do run the ball, like, even if they activate a Penny and say, we're going to run the ball 60 times, don't you think they know whether Rashad Penny can handle the rock or not on a regular basis? Yeah, isn't there something to the theory? It's not like he's being paid $10 million a year and is sitting on the bench. He was signed for like $1 million, $1.5 million. That's like backup money. He's being paid basically the same as Boston Scott. And they paid him, and then they got DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a better running back right now than Rashad Penny. But Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift have injury histories. So why risk both getting injured? Keep one healthy so that if the other one does not make it through the season, you've got a backup option. Like, I don't understand why that's so hard for people to understand. I don't. Look, do I think they could use a power back, like, kind of, style? Sure, it could help. Sure, it could. But also, most of their runs come out of the shotgun and the RPO formation. Rashad Penny is not an RPO shotgun type running back. He's a get under center the quarterback, have I formation with a fullback and power backs. We don't run that. We don't even have a fullback on this team. So who's going to be that lead blocker even for Rashad Penny? Like, the theory of why everybody wants to use Rashad Penny and how they want to use him doesn't even fit the system that we try to run. So I don't get that. I was excited when we got Swift because he reminds me of CMC, but we barely use him at this point. I mean, we've barely used him for so long, Myram, and yet he's still one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL rushing yards, because early in the season when we were using him and committed, he was lights out. Yeah, I don't get why they don't give the ball to Rashad. Like they want to. The theory is that they keep saying that we want to set up the run by passing. We pass and then go to the run. They have that philosophy. Then the problem is if they fall behind and they can't get to the running attack. Yes, I would like to see them use the run more often in early in games. And also, not only would it help our offense, not only would it take some pressure off of Jalen Hurts, if we effectively run the ball like we're capable of, we would actually rest our defense more. What happened to the 18 play drives and 16 play drives we had earlier in the season? Our defense was fresh in the games where our offense was controlling the clock. Be it right now, too much passing. And it's not even just too much passing. It's too much 7-step drop, long developing route. Like passing game can be an extension of the running game if used. Those quick slants to AJ Brown, which he breaks tackles for 40 yards because he's such a beast of a human being. It's almost like an extension of the running game. That West Coast offense philosophy is almost an extension of the running game. But we don't even do that. Far too much. 7-step drops, wait for everybody to get 30 yards down the field, protection breaks down, Hurts runs out of the pocket, plays over. Or he doesn't run out of the pocket and he gets sacked. Penny is just showing up to practice so he doesn't get fined. I'm like, honestly, Peanut, at this point, Rashad Penny must understand why and how and what the Eagles' philosophy is with him. And he must have agreed to it. Because at this point, if Rashad Penny was so great and so capable of doing what some fans think, don't you think he would have asked for a trade at the trade deadline? Don't you think he would have asked for his outright? How many players aren't happy in their situation? And you know what they do? They ask for a release because they aren't being used properly to their ability, or they want an opportunity to show what they can get so they can get another. Like Rashad Penny's going to be a free agent. He's going to want another payday after this year. But he knows what he's capable of. And he's not asking out because he knows, like, if Rashad Penny really wanted to tote the ball 10, 15, 20 times a game, there's probably plenty of bad teams that could use Rashad Penny right now. But no, he's being a good teammate. He's doing what is asked of him, and he probably understands and agrees with the philosophy on how he's being used. I really firmly believe Rashad Penny's a prideful football player and person. If he wanted to play, he would have asked, or if he thought he was capable of doing what other fans think he should be doing here, he would have asked out to go do that somewhere else. Nick needs to be like Doug and start letting his guys coach and take the bitching from Howie and Laurie. If you could do that and win a championship, that's better than Groundhog Day. That's a fair thing. Let his guys do what they do, for sure. Eagles started our 2-5 in 2021 and finished 9-8. So it'd be 7-3. Yeah, it was definitely a huge improvement. But the offense wasn't perfect. And look, I'm just saying there was definitely a growing curve. Shane Steichen didn't become the head coaching candidate he was in 2021. He became it in 2022 once he fully grasped the position. What's up, Mitchie Pooh? Yes, Kelly Oubre is back for the Sixers tonight. I haven't heard back from Justin. I sent Justin the link. I'm not sure if he'll be joining us for Sixers Talk. If he doesn't, we'll still touch on a few quick Sixers points later in the show. But if he does join us at 9, then we will jump into some Sixers conversation. No way in hell Swift signs back here. You can see how frustrated he is on the sidelines when he takes out a game. And honestly, I don't know if Swift would be offered a contract because Howie will keep going with the cheapest options possible at running back. And honestly, I'm okay with that, especially considering how our offense is geared. I have no problem. I love DeAndre Swift. Sure, I would like him here long term. But I know how he's not going to pay him the money that another team will, especially seeing what he got. We didn't get him because we signed him. We got him in a trade. We're talking offense, but the defense is a major issue. But the defense, and we spent a lot of time yesterday on the defense, Peanut. We did. But some of the defense's issue is that they're just gassed because the offense can't control the clock. Because the offense, look at the Buffalo game. It was like 90-some plays to like 60-some plays, offense versus defense. Do a little bit better job on offense, run the ball more maybe, have a more balanced offensive attack, and maybe the defense might not be as bad. The defense still has issues. I'm not letting the defense off the hook, but the offense can help the defense. Not Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni can help Sean Desai with how they design a scheme. Yes, I know Jeffrey Lurie desires the passing game, um, for sure. I know that. I mean, I've heard all the stories that you guys have heard that Doug Peterson got yelled at after a Green Bay Packers win, and I forget what year, because he ran the ball more than he passed the ball. I know those stories. But I think Jeffrey Lurie also does desire to win, and Jeffrey Lurie does desire more Super Bowl trophies. So I kind of feel like, you know, he would get over it if another Super Bowl trophy got here. Yeah, She-Hulk twerk meme after yeah. Look, I don't know about the Oubre situation still. Jeffrey Lurie desires the passing game in the obvious reason for lack of swift touches. That's the same comment, just with a little addition there. Um, Peanut's right. We have been exposed defensively, and Desai needs to figure it out before the hard reset. Yet last week in San Francisco, he never had his hard halftime reset. Fast from Fast family affair. So wait, Philly beat Miami, KC, Bills, and Cowboys. Niners beat Philly, Dallas, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Rams, all in blowout fashion. Yet Philly is better than San Francisco. So fast family, I appreciate your comment. First and foremost, yes, beat Miami, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Dallas. I would say those four teams. Look, first and foremost, the teams the Niners beat. I did say Dallas, Jacksonville, and Seattle, but I think Dallas, Jacksonville, Seattle is not as good as Miami, Kansas City, Bills, and Dallas. Because we both beat Dallas, you can watch that. So Miami, Kansas City, and Buffalo is tougher to win against than Jacksonville and Seattle. The Rams are an average, mediocre team. I don't think you can really specify that. Plus, we beat the Rams, so that would almost cancel out that as well. I don't think Pittsburgh, their record is good. Pittsburgh is still teetering on whether I think they're a really good team or not. And Seattle, I don't know what to think of Seattle at this point. And Jacksonville's a good team, but they've had a lot of ups and downs this year as well. They've had some bad losses on their schedule, Jacksonville. So I just think that the Eagles' schedule, for sure, up to this point, is totally, totally harder than the 49ers. And whether they win in blowout fashion or a close game, to me, a win is a win either way. That's my opinion. That is why I've got it that way. But I get what you're saying. I just don't think some of those teams you mentioned are as good as maybe you think they are. That's all I'm going to say. 100% correct on Jonathan's last comment with the Jeffrey Lurie. Gotcha. And I agree with that. I do. I do. Eagles' idea of successful defense is bend, don't break. Giving up 3 points is considered success. We're 32nd in. Yeah, well, so there's a lot to unpack here. The Eagles, just like the Eagles' offensive philosophy has been to pass first, run second. That's been a while because that's Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman's idea. That's why we pass the ball like we do. That's why the Doug Peterson story came out, et cetera, et cetera. But our defensive philosophy, bend, don't break, has been going back to the Jim Schwartz era here. We've been running that style for a long time. The number one thing I will say about the defense, my biggest criticism of the defense, which again, it's not an excuse, but if the offense kept the ball a little bit longer, maybe we wouldn't be as gassed and this wouldn't be the case. Our third down defense. We went over the numbers yesterday. It's atrocious. How the Eagles perform on third down is just straight terrible. I had the numbers. What are we? Out of the last 33 third downs our defense has faced, they have converted on 23 of them. That is an insane number. That's a 67% success rate against our defense. The last 33 third downs. We're not talking about the last 5. We're talking about the last 33 third downs. 66% of the time, the offense is successful. That's bad. And then that puts your offense in a hole, force them to pass even more. There's so much that goes. It's a team sport. It's not one side or one player to blame here. The Eagles have everything. We are bending and breaking. Recently, last week against 49ers, yeah, we broke. Now, I'm not letting one-time breaking change my opinions on the team. Now, if they break multiple in a row, sure. One game does not define a system. A culmination of games does. And the culmination of the games is still that the Eagles are the better team. But, but you got to you got to understand that there were some bad things there for sure. Now, I have confidence that the Eagles will clean it up. I have confidence that Nick Sirianni isn't going to just continue running the same. He is going to learn from his mistakes. I am confident that Sean Desai will figure something out. I'm confident that Shaq Leonard being here will help the defense. Fresh legs, a slight upgrade. And I saw my man Shane Haff, who's been on the show plenty of times. He's great for footage. He does the all 22. He breaks down so many plays, not just the Eagles, all NFL teams. He's fantastic at it. And he broke down one play, one of the Deebo Samuel plays, I believe it was. And Christian Ellis just was so all over the place and so bad in coverage on that play. And it's like, yeah, Shaq Leonard ain't the all pro he used to be. But Shaq Leonard's going to do a slightly better job than what Christian Ellis did on that play. He looked like a chicken running with his head cut off, had no idea which way to go, and he got burned for a big play. I don't know if it turned into one of the touchdown plays or not, but it was definitely a big play. Just don't see how you could say the Eagles are better than the Niners. I've given you my reasons. It's okay for us to disagree. I still will say that the Eagles are better, but I leave it open for interpretation if the Eagles go out and lay a clunker against Dallas next week, because then I have a bigger picture. But right now, one bad loss does not change my perception of this team. There's a reason why teams don't go undefeated. It's hard to win every single week in the NFL. Gannon in Arizona is blitzing at a much higher percentage. It is being said maybe he was told not to here. Interesting thought. Well, that goes back to the theory that we were just talking about, that this team listens to the philosophy set down from the higher ups. Maybe, but also maybe it's a personnel issue. They didn't blitz a lot last year here in Philly, but we still led the league in sacks. Maybe some of it was we didn't have to quote unquote blitz because our defensive line was getting home. There's a way you help the offense. You get home, you get a sack or two more. You don't let them escape the pocket like we constantly do. Maybe the defense gets off the field a little quicker. Maybe because everybody blames the secondary. Well, maybe Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick just gotta actually wrap up a little bit better. Maybe Jalen Carter needs to wrap up a little bit better. How many times do we see Brock Purdy almost get sacked on Sunday? Then he escapes and bingo, completes a big pass. It all goes together. But maybe Gannon was told not to blitz as much. Yeah, I went over these stats yesterday, Miriam. 175 yards given up by Nicholas Morrow. Now, maybe they're not all his fault. I don't know. Where are my Nicholas Morrow stats? Because I got more details than just that. It was 175, but 151 of them were yak yards. So he gave up the play and then let the guy burn past him. Brock Purdy had 213 of his 314 yards were yak yards. So as everybody not only did they give up the plays, they couldn't wrap up either, which is so hard to understand. As a business owner, it makes sense that Laurie would want high-scoring games with plenty of offense. It's more absolutely. The whole NFL, there's a reason why they're trying to ban the tush push, because it's not aesthetically pleasing, because teams can't stop it. The NFL protects quarterbacks, protects wide receivers. Why? Because it's higher scoring games are better for business, better for the casual fan. For us diehards that sit here and talk it every single day, we just want great football. But for the casuals that watch a few games here and there or tune in when they're at a party and half watching football games, they want to cheer for a big passing touchdown. They want the 57-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. They don't want 27 rushes and a team controlling the clock and scoring 17. They want 47 points and a quarterback throwing 400 yards. That's what they want. Brings back the memory of 3rd and 30 against Stack. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great memory from the past. Eagles front office can stick their analytics up their arses. Yeah, look, if you know me, Bobby, even a little bit, I'm not an analytics type guy. I can't stand it. I prefer to go with the feel and my gut, and my gut tells me that the Eagles are still the better team right now. And yeah, I've been known as a flip flopper. Uh, some people that some people that are probably more well known than me called me flip floppers for many different reasons. It is what it is. And I heard you. I heard you. But I might be flip flopping on this next week. If we go out and get smoked by the Cowboys on Sunday, I might be flip flopping. And we do not have a Victory Monday show. I might be flip flopping. But if the Eagles go out and win on Sunday against Dallas, and I firmly believe that they will go out and beat Dallas on Sunday, I'm going to come in here on Monday and be like, yo, guys, remember what y'all said that the Eagles aren't good. They're not as well. They're not. Nobody said they're not good. Well, not in this show today. But the Eagles weren't like. If we go out and beat the Cowboys on Sunday, like I expect them to, I'm going to call each and every one of you out for saying that they're not as good as the 49ers. Because that is another check mark in the column that the Eagles are a great, legit team. Are we done talking Penny finally? Thank God. Look, I think the Penny thing, I think it's a funny topic to talk about. Excuse me. Because everybody always wants the shinier, newer object. And Rashad Penny, to some, to the casual, is the unknown. But I think if there was something there, they would have used him by now. No offense to Boston Scott. I love Boston Scott, but they could have put some Penny touches in there if they thought he could do it. He could return kicks if they thought he could do it. They could have used him now with Dallas Goedert down, or when anybody's missed time, when Quez Watkins, they could have moved Scott Swift or Gainwell to the slot. There's so many ways that they could have utilized Rashad Penny at this point if they wanted to. But yet, because he's not being used, everybody's freaking out. And it's kind of it's I think the Rashad Penny unknown reason why there's love there is kind of partially why it's exactly similar to me being way over the top with the Eagles are better than the 49ers. Grand scheme of things. If they set the passing game up off the run, it would be more potent and in the return more aesthetically pleasing. The poopy offense that we see every week isn't aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, it hasn't been aesthetically pleasing for a few weeks. Well, hold on. We put up 37 points against Buffalo Bills. So last week was the first time it really, really looked ugly. Pleasing to watch. I feel like I'm being tortured watching every damn game, even when we win. Dude, you should be happy when we win, not tortured. Just understand, every team's giving us. We talked about. Everyone told me every team's going to give us their best shot this year. Well, every team's giving us their best shot, and we're coming out on top more often than not. Let's see what we got here from Facebook. Sigal Cerdo. I would suggest that the Eagles' defense was more productive last season, in part due to the fact that that team's offense was such a juggernaut during the first half of most games, thereby forcing many of the opponents. That's an interesting point too. We've been a more of a second half team this year, offensively and defensively speaking. The offense would always build these big leads, and then the defense could just settle in, pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. The offense was more efficient for sure. The defense also had 70 sacks last year, which makes everybody. I've said this countless times, and thank you for your comment. I hope you like the video. Hope you click like. I hope you tune in more frequently. We're here every single morning, so turn notifications on. It helps, and for if you're new to the program, I talk about it nonstop. The regulars are tired of me saying it, but we lead the league in almost sacks. We almost sacked the quarterback on almost every play this year. We don't. Last year, we had 70 sacks. That made Darius Slay and James Bradbury look a little bit better than they were. I'm not saying they're bad this year. They're just not elite like last year because of that. It all works together. The offense helps the defense helps the offense. And I firmly believe that. Leave Gainwell in the gulag. Marshawn. K1's going to be coming for you. He's going to be coming. He's going to be hunting for you. No doubt about it. I don't blame like Gainwell. His usage, it baffles me when they use him, how they use him. I don't think Gainwell is a bad running back. I think DeAndre Swift's better for sure, but I think Kenny Gainwell in the right situations is a very viable split running back in a dual threat backfield. They just use him wrongly, and they don't use him consistently enough. He never knows whether he's going to get 2 touches or 20 touches. So I don't know. I think Gainwell is just fine in the role he is. He needs more usage too. A loss to Dallas will be the wake up call for the Eagles to rethink what they're doing. If Dallas wins 40-20 like they did a year ago, there will be players only meeting. The players only meeting thing. I don't know how it works in sports. I'm just going to lean back for a second there, just see if anybody notices anything that's changed. Anyway, um, player only meetings, how much good they do or not, I don't know. But what I will say, I will be rethinking things for sure if they get blown up 40-20 or something like that. But I don't think they will, because I still think I'm still on the side of the equation that this is still the best team in football. That Jalen Hurts is going to do whatever it takes to make sure this team wins on Sunday. He doesn't want to see a 2-game losing streak. He doesn't. I don't think he'll will us to victory if he has to. Laurie is desperately trying to find a quarterback like Mahomes so Eagles can pass the ball every play. Wentz couldn't do it and got the look. So I see what you're saying there. And I think you're hinting at that Jeffrey Lurie will grow tired, even if they're winning, of the style of Jalen Hurts. And I don't think so. I disagree with that. If that's where you're going, mister, I disagree with that. I think he's perfectly happy and content with the money he just spent on Jalen Hurts. Um, yeah, for sure. Even when we play lesser teams, we never put them away. We made average quarterbacks look great, consistently giving up 3rd and long, playing off of receivers, etc. I get it, Bobby. But you know what? We went to the Super Bowl last year, and it was the same way. We almost lost to Houston. We almost lost to the Colts. It wasn't like we built up big leads last year, then let teams back into it. This year, we're keeping it close and having to win them at the end. Sort of same, sort of similar, just different ends of just different ways of getting to close results. This team didn't blow out many teams last year. In fact, give me a 30 seconds to pull it up. I think I could pull up last year's schedule really quickly. Yep, 2022 Eagles. Let's see. We only won by 3 against Detroit. We beat Minnesota and Washington pretty easily. Close game against Jacksonville. Close game against Arizona. Close win against Dallas. A bigger win against Pittsburgh. A close win against Houston. Then the Washington loss. Close Colts. Close Green Bay. Then a blowout of Tennessee. Blowout of the Giants. Close game against the bad Bears team. Then the Dallas and New Orleans loss without Hurts. And then a close win against the Giants to end the season. So the close results, Bobby, are exactly the same like last year. Honestly, if anything, we've got probably more big wins or blowout wins than last year. Desai totally lied to us. This soft defense does not reflect the attitude of Philly. Look, Bobby, I've tried to tell everybody countless times. I mean, Sean Desai is Sean Desai. He's a 1-year defensive coordinator in his past, and he failed miserably. So what we've gotten out of him is more than I expected already, because I didn't know what we were going to get out. I truly don't care about standings now. If we truly are the best team like we say we are, we win in the playoffs. Marshawn, I still, and that's a great segue, almost kind of sort of into the David Carr conversation on Twitter and on social media because of his video. And we'll get to what he said about Jalen Hurts and Marcus Mariota and that asinine part of it in a second. But he also said in it that seeding does not matter, that being the 1 seed does not matter. And I disagree with him, and I kind of guess that's what you're getting at here, Marshawn, as well. I am firmly believing that 1 seed is extremely, extremely important, not just for home field. Because if we're the 2 seed and we get home field in the first and second round, that's fine. We don't have to go on the road to the championship game, whatever. The 1 seed and seeding in general matters for one main reason: rest. The 1 seed is the only seed that gets that bye week in the playoffs. The rest that this team can get by getting that 1 seed, that extra bye week. Guess what? Last year, the 2 1 seeds, both with the bye, they kind of made the Super Bowl. That bye week means so much, especially to an Eagles team. Last year, they weren't banged up. They had the Lane Johnson torn groin that he played through, and that's it. This year, everybody on this team needs a minute, needs a minute and a half to kind of get their bodies right, to rest their legs, rest their knees, rest their minds. They need it. We're going to take a quick reset here. You're watching Trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel. We only got 13 likes on YouTube and 3 on Facebook. Please, if you're watching, pound that like button, share button for me. It means a great deal. It helps the show out immensely when you hit that like button. And the more comments, the better. And the more you like it, the more you share it, the more people that can jump in the conversation and comment their opinions. Big things coming in 2024 with the show. So I want everybody chiming in. All right, we got a 49ers fan here. You do not belong on the field with the 49ers team. We walked in all black for the funeral of the Eagles. Wasn't even competitive. Oh, my God. I have no problem putting a 49ers comment like that up on the screen. I don't. And you know what? I'm glad you guys won the Super Bowl on Sunday because that meant way more to you guys than losing did to us. It's one loss to us. To you guys, it's revenge. We didn't have this same feeling. We didn't say this or anything close to this when we beat the Chiefs a few weeks ago. And there's the difference between the 49ers and the Eagles. We see the bigger picture. You guys just are looking at one game. We're looking at the grand scheme of things. We're looking at we want to win the Super Bowl. Just so you know. But good luck to you the rest of the way. Hopefully, we see you in the championship game at the Link again, and we'll see who the better team is. Eagles are still a great team, but y'all not better than us. We had a point to prove. We had no quarterback, and we said we couldn't beat y'all. With another 40. We got back-to-back Niners fans chiming in. You did have a point to prove. We had a point to prove against the Chiefs, but we didn't care because that one game in the regular season does not make up for the playoffs. It doesn't. It's the whole season. And yeah, you whooped our butts on Sunday. There is no doubt about it. But you know what? We still have beaten more tough teams than you guys have. We've lost less games. Guys, the whole totality. One game does not define a season, Kenneth. But thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. The style of defense will be our downfall again this season. We scored 35 points in the Super Bowl and still lost. First team to ever do so. We never learned. I mean, we lost in the Super Bowl because we went up against one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time, one of the 5 greatest coaches of all time. That's why we lost in the Super Bowl. Yeah, part of it was the defense failed, but we also got beat by the better team. The Desai doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Guy is just winging it. No pun intended. Well, there's a pun there, but I get it. Desai even admitted yesterday that he isn't making the right calls and is making them late. Yeah, well, Desai then got to look from within. We got one of the 49ers people chiming back in. You didn't have turnovers. You didn't have fumbles. You didn't have penalties. There's nothing you can point to here, man. You got absolutely dog walked in every single perspective. And I have not disagreed with that. What I've disagreed with is saying that one loss defines the entire season. And your one win defines your entire season to mean that one game is the only reason why you think you're better than our team. Your team's better than our team. That one game doesn't define what's happened over the last 13 weeks of the season. Over the last 13 weeks of the season, we have been the better team. One game doesn't change that. That's all I'm saying. Now, this week, again, I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. We go out and lose a back-to-back game. We go get curb stomped for a second week in a row by the Cowboys. Sure. I'll have the conversation that maybe the 49ers are better. But I ain't even guaranteeing the 49ers win this week. This is the perfect time. I'll learn a lot about the 49ers this week if they have a letdown against Seattle. I mean, it happens. We had a letdown against the Jets. Letdowns happen. I'll put my ego away here. Sorry, I'm amped up. From a scheme perspective, what makes you think you could beat this 49ers team truthfully? There's a lot that goes into it. Again, I'm not taking anything away from the 49ers. They beat us. The yak yardage and all that kind of stuff. Look, I'm not making excuses for our Eagles team, Steven, but we played 3 games in 13 days. The game before was in overtime. You guys had 10 days of rest versus us 6, and the obvious 3 and 13 days. We're we're banged up, we're injured, we're exhausted, and a lot of your yards were because of missed tackles. A lot of your big plays were because of missed tackles. And what's the number one thing that missed tackles happen from? Fatigue. And to me, the fatigue set in, it caught up to us, and we were gassed. We were gassed before the game started, on defense specifically. Come playoff time, could be a different story. Everybody on even playing field, same time, no extra breaks and whatnot, could be a different story. So we got my man. We're going to take a little pause in the Eagles talk for 15 minutes here. Got all week to continue the Eagles talk, but we're going to pause Eagles talk for 15 minutes here. My man, Justin Crosby, Eagles writer for Philadelphia Sports Network. Good morning, Justin. How you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning.
You sound like you're just waking up here.
Yeah, no, I had to get my tea ready for the day.
For the day. There you go. Hopefully, you're more awake than I am because I've already completely lost my train of thought like 400 times this show because I'm not fully awake. I'm literally talking and literally the words just slip right out of my head. So hopefully you're better off than I am. But since last week when you're on last, it feels like the Sixers have not played a single game. I know they played a game that night, but this schedule's been really funky for the Sixers with the play-in tournament. It's been 5 minutes,
Yep,
since the Sixers have played a game. Um, the long layoff this early in the season with a team that's still learning and building a system. Do you think the layoff here, 5 days, was helpful for the Sixers team?
absolutely. First, health. Like number one, health.
Hmm.
Kelly Oubre is healthy now,
Hmm.
and will be playing tonight. The
Hmm.
whole team appeared to be get bitten by some type of bug that Jaden Springer was patient zero. So everybody else got sick. So for them to take some time away from each other definitely helped. And then just getting back into, practicing and nurses always talked about how, as recent as a couple weeks ago when I was there at the Wells Fargo that day, he was saying that defensively, only like 30 or 40% of what they want to do is installed. So I'm sure just having some time to practice was very, very helpful for the squad.
Absolutely, and you hit it on it there tonight. Kelly Oubre is back for the Sixers team. Um, Besides the situation itself, on why he was away from the team with broken ribs. Getting him back is going to be a massive, win for the Sixers team. Do you foresee him back to coming off the bench like he did at the start of the season, or like we expected him to do at the start of the season, but he wasn't because of all the things with James Harden and the new players and all? Do you expect him to come off the bench?
I do expect him to come back off the bench and be the sixth man, the first guy off the bench. I think Batum just brings added veteran presence as well as quick shooting, quick decision making, and good passing for Embiid. I'm sure Embiid's minutes probably will be like tailored with Batum, because he seems to be the only one that can make an entry pass.
Right.
So I do think that Oubre is going to be coming off the bench going forward, which is not a bad thing for him. That just means that he'll have more of the green light when he's in the game.
Yeah. I think it's a smart thing. How does the rotation shape? I mean, because I kind of feel like at this moment going into tonight's game, I did see somebody. I think Anthony Melton was listed late last night that he might be sick
Hmm.
now. But that notwithstanding, if everybody's healthy now, I mean, I kind of see like a 13 or 14 man rotation was. I mean, you're not going to run a 13 or 14 man rotation, but this team is so deep. So who's going to be now the odd man out? Is Springer now going to be back to riding the pine every night? Is it like who's going to be the short? Who's going to get the short end of the stick here? Because you can't have 14 guys playing every single night.
I know it's so tough because, and I think it goes back to kind of what Marcus Morris Sr. said a couple weeks ago. Like Nurse kind of plays who's hot or matchup wise. I think that's what we're going to see. I think they're what they're. I would say their eight is solidified
Mhm.
with the starters. Then you got Oubre. Well, nine: Oubre, Pat Bev, um, Robert Covington, and Paul Reed.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I feel like it could be anybody's night. Now, Jaden Springer was getting minutes and he was really good. He was closing lineups. Offensively, he wasn't the best, but defensive athleticism, like they just don't have a lot of that. So it was good to see him get in. But then Marcus Morris has come on more recently with more minutes. So that could be easier for him. Although KJ Martin hasn't done anything offensively, he hasn't got a lot of burn. But when he played in Boston when they last played, defensively, he held up well against Tatum and Brown and just showed some athleticism on the wing that the Sixers normally don't have and didn't have with Oubre. So it'll be really interesting to see who plays more. But I do think Nurse is going to have it dependent on matchups.
I mean, you bring up Martin there, and that wasn't part of my conversation points for today, but he kind of intrigues me because I won't lie. I mean, I knew who he was when we traded for him, but I didn't have this. Like, there were a lot of Sixers fans that were super hyped that he got included in that James Harden trade because he's young and whatnot. And I guess maybe he's impressed people in years past. You know, are they missing something there by not playing him more or giving him more opportunity, or is he just too young and inexperienced with this crop of veteran guys? Like, is there someone's minutes that he could be taking some of and really provide a spark? Because the way I heard it when he got traded here, he was not the next coming, but he was going to be an important piece, and he's barely seeing the court.
Yeah, it's very odd. Like athleticism, they need for sure. He's not the best shooter, but he's gotten better. But on a Rockets team last year, that one of the not one of the better teams in the league, but he played really good minutes, and I think he averaged like 10 points a game. That's pretty solid. He could come here average what like 6 to 8 points. I feel like because definitely different with more people holding the ball and stuff like that. Here, he wouldn't be one of those main options, but I don't know. It's very weird. I'm like, are they waiting for a consolidation trade and then he plays?
Mhm.
Because I was excited about him too. Like everybody talked about like who would be the starter, when PJ would come, and then there were speculations about Batum retiring and stuff. I'm like, yo, I wouldn't mind seeing Martin and a lineup to give some, lob threat, defensive ability, some secondary rim protection because he can jump so high and make some of those plays. I was a little confused. I still am, but to me, we don't see what's going on in practice, right? We don't see what's going on in film. So maybe in that area there's something going on, but I am surprised he's not getting any run.
Yeah. So tonight we got Washington. Honestly, the Sixers' schedule over the next couple weeks is fairly favorable for them with multiple Washington games, multiple Detroit games. Some pretty below average teams in the NBA. Um, Not just tonight, against Washington, but going forward over the next couple weeks. What will you be looking for from this team that will tell you, not that they just beaten bad teams, but that give you some positivity? Because after that big long winning streak, I mean, let's be honest, they've been pretty inconsistent. Yeah, they've had injuries, they've had the Oubre situation. They've had a lot of things going against them, sicknesses, whatnot. Let's be honest, they're I think 4-6 in their last 10 games. They've had 3 2-game losing streaks recently. Like, what can the Sixers do and use in this stretch of easy games that can kind of start building the fan base's confidence? Because we all started like, oh wow, we're all bought back in right after that James Harden trade and that big winning streak, but now it's kind of leveled out a little bit. Is there anything they can do over the next 4-6 games, close out this year, that will rebuild this confidence level of the fan base up?
Yeah, I think internally, I don't think there's any. I think they're just having some growing pains, and with the injuries, with the illnesses, excuse me. I don't think internally they're worried at all. I think they believe
Okay.
that they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. For the fans, I think that more so seeing them take care of business, right? Like Sixers, I mean, the ball goes up every night, and somebody could play harder than you, or whatever the case may be, and you can lose games. Like it's just these guys are professionals too, so they're always there's always an opportunity for them to lose a game that they shouldn't lose. But for them to become a team that really takes care of business, like they should be taking care of business. The really good teams, you might have a slip up where they might lose to Washington or Detroit once or whatever the case may be, but Otherwise, they should be taking care of business. They should be taking care of these teams that they should be beating and kind of, boost their record up and show that when it's come times to play, they can play. Now, these other ultra competitive games, whether it's Boston or when they play Milwaukee or, Miami or even Indiana now at this point, like those are the games we expect to be really tough games and to, show up. You want the Sixers to win those games, but the games that they're supposed to win against these less experienced teams, like they should be taking care of business, and that's what you really want to see.
I want to backtrack to that Boston game for a second. I know you watched it. I'm sure you watch every game. I think I learned more about this Sixers team as a whole and just their overall philosophy. I mean, they lost the game. I get it. And there's no such thing anymore as moral victories. I don't want to go back to the Brett Brown era when, oh, we almost won this game, but we're growing from it. But as a new team with a new coach, new philosophies, a lot of new moving pieces, and you are missing Maxi. You're still missing Oubre. You're missing Joel Embiid. And for them to push, I know they lost by 6, but it was like a 2-point game right down to the final minutes there. To be able to go out there and play the way they did against the Boston Celtics and almost win that game in a game where they had Jason Tatum and they had their full complement, Boston, there that night, and be able to keep that game close and show the fight they did. I learned, I feel like, so much more from that Sixers team in that loss than I have from any of the wins earlier this year.
Yeah, and I feel like that goes to show the toughness that they have on the team now with and leadership, veteran leadership with Beverly and Morris. Beverly played out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But
I didn't know
to
Beverly still had
me,
that much left
like
in the tank to do that. Like I
me
think he
either.
said during the
Me
broadcast it was
either.
the most points he scored since like 2001. I mean, a little sarcastic there, but
Yeah, like
it's been a
it's
long time since he's been able to put up 20 points in a game.
yeah, and I think and I don't wanna down Tobias Harris because he's had a pretty consistent season.
Mhm.
And he that was like his first really bad game, but like he was very disappointing in the game where you don't have Maxey, you don't have Embiid. He's deferring way too much to Marcus Morris and Patrick Beverly. Although Beverly did have it going, like you're the next best guy. Like, all right, you defer to Melton because Melton is more of a like Melton is shooting the ball really well right now, and he has a lot of confidence. I'm cool with that, and he should be cool with that. But the rest of the stuff, like Tobias deferring, and then specifically because he was deferring, trying to force it when he should be forcing it. Specifically in that
Mhm.
fourth quarter when they had a lead, it was a couple times he went in transition and he got blocked a couple times on the same play. Other times he's just like mentally he wasn't there. And I expect more from him being here. This is his fifth full year.
Yeah.
He understands when to attack, when not to attack. That was just very disappointing to see Tobias play like that in a game where he didn't have Maxi or Embiid. And again, I don't want to beat up on the guy because he's been really consistent this year so far, but like I expect, and I know the Sixers as an organization expected better of him in that situation.
Yeah, I'm torn because I'm a big Tobias Harris fan and supporter of his, but he's just not shooting the ball as well. I mean, I was looking earlier. I mean, it's the lowest 3-point percentage he's had in like 5 years. He's taking less 3-point shots than he has in like 6 or 7 years. He's turning the ball over more times per game than he has in 5 or 6 years. He's just not. I mean, he's being consistent, but he's being consistently just like I expected him to up his game, not down his game a
Yeah.
little bit there. And I think it's interesting that you brought that up. Marshawn wants to know if you actually get paid in sneakers.
I
Just
used
checking
to.
in on last, yeah, yeah. Everybody's got the stomach bug, Duck. Not just the Sixers, but everybody. This is a hilarious comparison. To Tobias's Nick
Wow.
Castellanos. I mean, I get it. I get what Marshawn's saying there on that one. All right, so I lost my. That's the fourth time I've lost my train of thought there on this show here. This is not prime Phil in the morning here today. This is definitely weak Phil in the morning here today. Um, I lost everything. I don't even. Or what are we even talking about? The Sixers? Yeah, okay. The Sixers. Talk about the Sixers for me. No, I'm struggling this morning, Justin. I really am. Um, I don't
I'm
even know. I
good.
had another question lined up for you, and I just can't even get it out of my head right now. I can't figure it out, Justin. I'm lost. Give me something good on the Sixers here.
I think that you'll see a good week for the next 2 weeks for the squad.
Mm.
I do think they have Washington tonight. They should win. I think they have Atlanta on Friday, which is um a trap game to me because Atlanta can score with the best of them. They play zero defense, but you catch them on a night when they're shooting well. You know they're tough to beat, but after that, I think they're good. And then I think a little bit later down the line, maybe next week, sometime they have the Chicago Bulls. Very interested to see if we see Zach LaVine in person. Caruso. This could be the we're playing in front of Daryl Morey pick me bowl. So I'm really curious to see how the Sixers play against this competition going forward, but specifically the matchup against the Bulls and the Hawks.
All right, I remember what I was going to say. I wanted to close with this, and I'll wrap up with this question here. Obviously, James Harden. I know we're kind of trying to move past James Harden. We are, and we always talk about how Howie Roseman has grown as a general manager and president of a team. He's learned from his mistakes in the past. James Harden saying that Daryl Morey just flat out lied, promised him a max contract, and then pulled it back. And everybody's talking about James Harden aspect of it. And I kind of looked at it differently than most people. And I looked at it as Daryl Morey has learned from his past mistakes. Yeah, he might have verbally said, "Yeah, I'll probably try to get you that, max deal." But then he realized, "Oh crap, I can't do that. He's not worth that anymore." Can we take because I've said from the beginning that I don't trust Daryl Morey making the next move because of past mistakes. And now I'm thinking after hearing what Harden said and trying to look at it in a different way, that maybe I can trust Daryl Morey, that maybe he has learned from his mistakes. What are your thoughts on James Harden saying that and then dissecting it the way that I did? Do you think I'm on to something that maybe he's just learned from his mistakes and it's time to do something different?
I do think he's learned from his mistakes. I do think he realized there that at the end of the day, like he saw how two elimination games in a row, James Harden looked terrible, almost looked like he quit, right? You can't invest that much money into a guy who's not shooting at the rim. Mind you, in LA, he's shooting the lowest amount of attempts and the lowest field goal percentage he's had in the paint since he's been in the league. Like, you can't rely on the step back. He's not a movement shooter. He's not a catch and shoot shooter. So it's like I think Morey, as well as ownership, saw it on the wall, was like, listen, we'll bring it back for this amount, right? Like if you want 200 million, we're not giving you that. But if you want 2 years, 90 million, 3 years, 100 million, something like that, whatever, we'll work with you on that
Mm-hmm.
with some type of opt out, but we can't give you full money. And I think Daryl has learned his lesson. But I also think the pressure's on. I think Daryl realized that he's on borrowed time. And I'm saying that with all due respect because Daryl
Mm-hmm.
does follow me on social media, but he's on borrowed time.
That's a flex right there.
More
Hey,
so
Daryl Morey
because
follows me. That's a flex of all flexes on trending in the AM
no,
right
no,
here.
I just because things could be taken out of context, but I think he's on borrowed time enough because he's down to his final chess move.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're down to your final chess move, like you have to be very careful. This team has underperformed since he's been here, and some of it's not his fault. But when you're the GM, the coach has already been changed.
Mm-hmm.
When you're the president of basketball, like Elton's not doing anything behind the scenes to change Elton, so it's on him. So he has to learn from his mistakes and make the right decisions. Like whatever he does with this package of assets, it's his
Mm-hmm.
last move.
Yep,
And if it
true.
doesn't work,
And if it
so I
doesn't
think
work,
he
it's
has
it's
to learn
it's,
from
it's
his
start
mistakes.
all over again. Real quick,
Yep.
Justin, covering everything for the Sixers here at Philadelphia Sports Network. When are you and Zach getting behind the mic again for another episode of Still Processing?
Probably tomorrow. Was it Thursday? Yeah, probably Thursday. Yep.
All right, gotcha. You guys got to make sure you're subscribed to the PSN network, not only just because of this great morning show, but Zach and Justin do a great show called Still Processing. Great Sixers talk every time I listen to them. I'm sure you got plenty of articles and stuff coming out on the website as well, Justin.
Yep.
Thanks for your 20 minutes this morning, and let's hopefully next week. There's at least a few games this week between this appearance and next week, so we'll have a little bit more. And I promise I won't lose my train of thought next Wednesday.
Yes, and next week I'll bring some. I'll bring some. We'll see after this week. I'll bring a couple low end trade targets we could talk about.
All right, I like that. I like that thought. Everybody, thank you very much, Justin, and we'll see you
Thank you.
next week. Thanks. That was Justin Crosby on the I Have No Sponsor hotline, as always, every Wednesday, brought to you by the I Have No Sponsor hotline. Let's see. We had a lot of comments. Baha for your clickbait headline. Hey, clickbait headlines, they work. Sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Look, I appreciate Justin Crosby jumping on. There's a lot of comments here. Sixers in the conversation. We're in the final 5 minutes of the show. 19 likes on YouTube, 6 on Facebook. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And yeah, clickbait headlines, they work. It got Cold Logic, whoever Cold Logic is, into it. Enjoy the rest of the season. I will. I'll enjoy playing in the Super Bowl, unlike others. But anyway, one final Eagles thing that I want to talk about. We'll talk some more Sixers tomorrow on the show after tonight's game against Washington, after we get back into the flow of the season. And the way the Sixers season has gone because of this long break, because of the in-season tournament, I hate it. I'm struggling to stay focused on the Sixers because it's been 5 days since they played. But I got to spend 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, to close the show. Yeah, y'all know I'm all about the clickbait stuff, but it does not. But it does make Phil a bit of a tool. Yeah, totally me. Totally. Thanks, Duck. I appreciate the high praise from you on that. You want to talk about clickbait? David Carr went on some TV show. I don't even know what channel employs him. But with a straight face, said directly into the camera, the Eagles would be better off starting Marcus Mariota over Jalen Hurts. He can win as many games with this Eagles team as Jalen Hurts. And he said that with a straight face. And he gave reasons behind it, too. Jalen Hurts could be as effective because he's just as good at running the football as Jalen. He can handle it with A.J. Brown, this and that. He literally, you want to call out Cold Logic, my clickbait headline. Duck wants to call me a clickbait man all about the bottom dollar. But damn. There ain't no more clickbait headline than Marcus Mariota is a better option at starting quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Like, David Carr took a lot of sacks in his career in the NFL. Like, a lot of sacks in a very short period of time. Maybe he took one too many sacks. And whatever network it is that's employed him really needs to look hard into maybe investing in some brain testing with that guy. Like, I know what he was trying to say. That Jalen Hurts should be rested. He's banged up. He's injured. He can't be as effective when he's injured. But, dude, even Jalen Hurts at 80% is better than Marcus Mariota at 100 at this point. Even though Jalen Hurts is banged up, he's still got the team at 10-2. Even though Jalen Hurts is banged up, like, he's still performing at an MVP level. Like, I can't, when I heard that, like, yeah, I mean, seriously, this comment from Doug, like, the McKeisters, like Tanner McKee, would probably be better than Marcus Mariota. So what David Carr did before the show to make him think that saying David Carr, or that David Carr probably thinks he would be doing a better job than Jalen Hurts. Like for all the clickbait stuff out there, the Dan Sillymans, the Chris Simpleton, and the Skippy Payless, they say some pretty insane things. I don't think I've ever heard something as insane as what David Carr said on the show yesterday. Like, insane. David Carr took too many hits. Yeah, I just said that. You truly have to look at who is talking when speaking. But this guy is getting paid probably big money to appear on a national TV show regularly. I think it's a regular show. I don't know. Based off the way he was sitting at the desk, I'm assuming he's part of that show. Like, he is getting paid a very large salary to appear and talk football because he's the quarterback, the former NFL quarterback. Like I gotta truly look at who's hiring these people to talk about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, not just the person talking about him. Like I don't know if I've truly ever heard anything like that before. Mariota can still run for his life, but can't complete a pass to save his life. Man, like it's just yeah. And I see Mister saying clickbait is a art form. You have to find what triggers outrage. But this is not even like I don't think there's a single 49ers or Cowboys fan out there that would agree with this. Like there's literally nobody that, and I know he had a reason, and like I get what he was saying, but it was so far fetched and so far from the truth, and so like so many holes in what he was saying. It is literally the biggest form of clickbait I have ever heard. ESPN has Orlowski, Rex Ryan, Harry Douglas, Foxworth, and are these really the guys we're going to listen to about the Eagles? Dan Orlowski used to be an Eagles supporter, but that was when Carson Wentz was the quarterback, and he's still not over how wrong he was there. If I was Shanahan, I would have told the defense to let up and let Mariota. Yeah, I think you said this yesterday too. But yeah, yeah. If Mariota would have let a comeback, there would have been people calling for a quarterback controversy for sure. Not in Philadelphia, because I think Philadelphia would have realized the truth. Anyway, we're way past time here. I got to wrap this up. Trending in the AM. We'll back tomorrow. Never even got back to my power rankings. I did not spend enough. I wanted to spend 15 minutes complaining about David Carr. I spent 2. Back tomorrow. We'll talk a little Sixers tomorrow. We'll dive into tonight's Sixers game. I think I'll be pretty focused on watching the game tonight. So we'll talk a little Sixers tomorrow. We'll obviously continue this Eagles talk. We'll continue to talk about the NFL as a whole. But I've got to wrap this up for Philadelphia Sports Network. That's right. Go Birds. I am Phil Stiefel. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Guys, have a great day. Go Birds.